Hello everybody, my name is Walter and this is episode 29 of my Redstone Commands series. In this episode I want to cover a rather new command, which is the damage command. Now, as the name implies, this command is used to simulate basically any kind of damage you can get in the game. It's only the damage if usually there is a status change corresponding with this, for example the wither effect or so. This is not part of the damage command. This is the pure damage, just modified potentially by armor protection, other status effects, and so on. But nevertheless, this could be quite interesting if you want to make some custom traps in your adventure maps. And with that, let's get to the syntax. So basically, there are two different types of syntax you can use here. The first is primarily meant for non-entity or environmental damage, where you don't really have an entity to talk about. So for example, if you walk into a cactus or are within the explosion radius of a bed in the nether, then you can primarily use or should use this type of syntax. If you're targeted by or simulating being targeted by a specific entity, for example, shot by a skeleton, sending in the explosion of a creeper or something like that, then you should use the second type. Nevertheless, you could put in mob damage up here or some kind of explosion down here. Doesn't really matter. The only real difference would be in the dev messages. But anyway, let's get started with the first environmental damage. So for that, we start with the name of the command damage. Then we specify the target. This must be a single entity. So either a player name, a unique identifier, or a limited target selector. Following that, you specify the amount of damage, the raw amount of damage you want to produce. This can be as low as 0, which would be no damage, but nevertheless you would get the normal results, so maybe a knockback or something like being invulnerable for a short amount of time. It can also be a couple billion or so pretty lethal. This is the raw amount. This will later on be modified if you, for example, targeting something that is wearing a specific armor. After that, optionally, you can define the type of damage. If you don't define it, it will be generic damage. So if you have a death message, there is just the player died, but not was shot by a skeleton or whatever. This can be something, for example, like explosion or generic or so. As usual, the autocomplete function will give you a good overview of what is possible. Just put in damage, then, for example, 0, and then you have a list of everything that can be used here as a damage type, and subsequently has an effect on the death message. So, and then after that, optionally, you can define the location of the damage. So for example, where was the explosion centered that produced that damage? Second option, entity damage. We start the same way. Name of the command, damage, then the target, and then the amount. And then again, optionally, the type of damage. And then we have a primary and a secondary source of the damage. The primary source would be, for example, the exploding creeper or the zombie that is hitting you. Or if you're shot by the skeleton, this would be the arrow. This would be not the skeleton, the arrow that would be. The skeleton would be the secondary source here. So shot by an arrow from a skeleton, basically. This is rather interesting when you're talking about what the wolves are attacking after the fact or similar. Again, this entity and this entity both need to be single entities that are already in the game. So you can't say, okay, I am shot by a skeleton. You have to say, I'm shot by this skeleton. Again, similarly, you can use player names, unique identifiers, or limited target selectors here. And with that, let's talk about examples. So first of all, I will damage myself here with 10 points of fall damage. But if I try it as I am now, you can see I'm invulnerable because I'm in creative mode. So first I have to get into survival mode. You can see I have full hearts. And now I produce some fall damage. As you could see, I had 5 hearts missing. Subsequently, I was hit by or for 5 hearts. Now let's get some armor. First, let's get into creative mode so I can get actually copies of those. Now let's get back into survival. So I have the control group. This is just normal unenchanted armor. And if I'm putting this into my armor slot here and do exactly the same, first I'll heal myself. And now I do the same. You can see again 5 hearts of damage because this was just normal armor. Now I have one with feather falling. This is specifically protection against falling damage. And first I heal myself. And once more. And now I damage myself. You can see 2.5 hearts. So much less damage. So you can see the raw damage was the same, but I had some protection against this type of damage. Subsequently, you can see that the protection a target has and the type of damage plays quite a bit of a role. So that's that. Now let's just give a few more examples. So this one here would be targeting myself for 100 damage. The damage type is being shot by an arrow, and the arrow itself is actually the nearest bat. Yeah, rather crazy. So basically I'm stripping or putting this bat over there onto an arrow and shooting myself with that. So let's do that for 100, and obviously I die. Yeah. No surprise there. And you can see I was shot by a bat. Yeah. Now let's quickly respawn and let's get back down. Second example, now I am still shot by the bat, but from the nearest iron golem. So basically this iron golem is taking the bat and shooting myself. Again for 100. And you can see now in the death message, I was shot by the iron golem. Why? Because I specified this. So, and last example for this part, I'm exploding myself, basically. So target is myself and producer is myself. So death attack explosion item. Okay. Apparently there is no death message that is corresponding to suicide in this game. And with that, we have reached the end of this episode about the damage command. I hope you enjoyed it, and well, see ya!